We are, all of us, collectors of stories. We gather them in the light, tales of love and triumph to warm our hands against the dark. But some stories are born in the abyss. They are not meant to be told. They are contagions of the soul, and once witnessed, they begin to replicate inside you, changing the very architecture of your mind. Listen, if you dare, to the story of the fourth tape. A story that insists with a whisper of cold steel that you are already a part of it. Our tale begins not with a bang, but with a stench. 1994, a forgotten farmhouse in the rain-sodden hills of Oregon. When the officers breached the door, it wasn't the splintering wood that announced the horror within. It was the smell. A thick, sweet, coppery perfume of rot and old blood, underpinned by something far worse, something acidic and alien that clawed at the back of the throat. They found nothing living, nothing that could be called whole. But in the basement, meticulously stacked, were 47 VHS tapes, each one labeled with a name, a roll call of the damned. The official report sealed it away. A tragedy, a monster caught too late. Only 3 tapes were ever entered into evidence, their contents a ghost story whispered at crime scene cleanup seminars, but the world never saw the 4th tape. I did. My name is Leo Vance. Back then, I was a journalist, all sharp edges and hungry eyes, my ambition a shard of glass in my gut. I believed the truth was a scalpel, and with it I could dissect the world. How foolish we are in the days before our own undoing. My contact at the evidence locker was a man named Henderson, his face a roadmap of regrets, his principles worn thin by years of low pay and lower expectations. I met him in the sticky vinyl booth of an all-night diner, the air thick with the smell of old grease and desperation. I slid an envelope thick with cash across the table. He slid back a single unmarked VHS cassette. No name, just a number, scrawled in black marker 004. That night, in the blue glow tomb of my editing suite, the hum of the machine was the only sound. I remember the dry click as I pushed the tape in, the whirring of gears that sounded like bones grinding. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. I was an archaeologist of atrocity, about to brush the dust from a new layer of hell. The screen flickered to life, resolving not into static, but into a stark, well-lit room. A man sat in a simple wooden chair centered in the frame. He was ordinary, clean-shaven with a gentle, almost paternal smile. He could have been a math teacher or a local pastor. But his eyes were polished stones, devoid of light. Behind him, a young woman was bound to a chair, her mouth gagged with a strip of cloth, her chest hitching with silent, frantic sobs. The terror in her wide, liquid eyes was a physical force, pressing against the screen. He leaned forward, his voice a warm, conversational baritone that was more horrifying than any scream. "We wear our lives on our skin," he began, as if confiding a secret to an old friend. "Lies of happiness, of contentment, a mask of tissue and nerve, but pain." He smiled, a genuine, beatific smile. Pain is the purest form of truth. It is the chisel that chips away the marble of the self. Skin is the first lie. I peel it away to find the soul beneath. My own skin was crawling. I wanted to vomit, to look away, to smash the screen. But a deeper, darker part of me was mesmerized. This was the abyss, and it was staring back. He stood and walked to the woman. He didn't move like a monster. His gait was calm, purposeful. He leaned close, his lips almost brushing her ear, and whispered something. Her muffled scream was not a sound of air, but of a soul being shredded. It filled my small room, a high, keening note of absolute despair. He didn't flinch. From his pocket, he produced a scalpel. The light caught its edge, a sliver of captured star. He started with her cheek. The motion was slow, ritualistic, unbearably precise. The skin parted, not in a gush, but like the opening of a delicate, terrible flower. Blood welled, not red, but black in the harsh light, and began to drip, 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 like ink from a poisoned pen, each drop a period at the end of a sentence of her life. I was frozen, a witness chained to this theater of agony. My breath hitched in my throat, my fingers were claws digging into the arms of my chair. The world had shrunk to this image, this sound, this smell of my own cold sweat. The tape did not show the end. It simply faded to black as her body went limp, her face a ruined canvas of crimson. The final image was him, turning back to the camera, his smile never faltering. His eyes found the lens, found me. "Next," he said, his voice dripping with a gentle, welcoming promise. I spent the next week in a fugue state. The image of the woman's eyes was burned onto the back of my eyelids. I became an addict of the abyss, scouring cold case files, obsessing over the symbols he'd drawn on the wall, the cadence of his speech. I had to understand. I had to know. Henderson, now terrified, gave me access to 2 more tapes. Each was a variation on the same horrific theme: the calm man, the terrified victim, the ritual of flaying, the final, inviting next. It was on the 7th tape I reviewed, my body running on caffeine and dread, that the foundation of my reality shattered. The scene was different, darker, a single bare bulb hanging from a wire, and in the chair was me. It was my face, pale and slick with sweat, my eyes wide with a horror I had only ever imagined. I was sitting silent, staring directly into the camera, my own face, a mask of terrified resignation. My blood turned to ice, the room tilted. I never filmed this. I was never in that farmhouse. I was in college in 1994, writing bland articles for the student paper. This was impossible. A sick joke, a deepfake decades before the technology existed. But I knew the faint scar above my eyebrow, a childhood accident. I knew the way I held my jaw when I was terrified. This was me. The Leo on the screen slowly, deliberately raised a trembling hand and pointed a finger directly through the screen, directly at me. And the man's voice, that warm, friendly baritone, spoke from just off camera, a smile evident in his words. "Welcome, Leo. We've been waiting." The tape ended. I sat in the silence, the hum of the dead screen the loudest sound I had ever heard. The truth I had so desperately sought now had me in its jaws. The basement tapes were not a record of past crimes. They were not a collection of snuff films. They are an audition, a recruitment tool. And the most terrifying part, the thought that coils in my gut like a frozen serpent, is the dawning, absolute certainty that it's working. The obsession they inspire, the dreadful need to see, to understand. That is the first hook. The tapes, they don't just show you a monster, they show you the monster you could become, and they are always, always recruiting.